Good evening, everyone. Well, what an amazing cast of women we have on this panel. Let me introduce you to all our panelists. Well, Shefali Garadia is the chairperson of Deloitte South. Last year, in fact, marked a significant milestone, as this was the first time when a woman was to chair a Big Four firm in India. So thank you so much. We're proud to have you. We have with us Radhika Gupta, MD and CEO of Edelweiss Mutual Fund. And there cannot be a more compelling story than Radhika Gupta's transformational story that we've seen. From being rejected 7 times over at a consulting firm, we've actually seen you 11 years forward, youngest CEO at 33. Huge round of applause for Radhika. And Amisha Vora, Chairperson and MD of PL Capital Prabhudas Lilladher, with over 35 years of experience in the financial markets. She has completed a full circle. She's transitioned from being a partner at the firm to now acquiring it. She's taken her stake from 24% to well over 96%. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being with us on this special and, wonderful panel discussion. I can't imagine how wonderful this is going to be. Let me start off by asking you, Radhika, because, you have to tell us, this is a storytelling time, and we need to hear from you. How have you managed to pull off what all the challenges you've faced? You've talked about it often, but we want to hear it one more time from you. 7 times rejections over. In fact, you were just 20 years old. And that is a time when you actually wanted to jump off a window and commit suicide. Years later, you've written about that in your book. The challenges that you overcame. Tell us about it, and where do you stand right now? Tell us, what do you want to tell those people who rejected you in the first place?
So it was a consulting firm. I'm pointing to my consulting colleague, but it's lovely to be here, and it wasn't Deloitte. We work with Deloitte, and you guys are lovely. It's lovely to be here. I think this is like the 5th year I'm at this BT event, and I've been joking with Rahul. He doesn't follow my idea that you should actually make a BT club and license this event, because the reason I come to the event is actually not to collect the award. It's to meet the most amazing 20, 30, 40 other women that I've met over the years. And believe me, some of the best friends I've made, and some of the best pregnancy advice, and some of the best mentors I have found have all been found through this event from 2019 to present. So you guys aren't making enough of this event. So that's a little tip from Shark in the House to Rahul, and you guys, please use that. Okay, so challenges. And I've been on countless women's panels where I have been asked about challenges. And I want to give you a different take on this. In most such sessions, when you're asked about challenges, there is an assumption that the challenges are very external. They could be things like work life, they could be discrimination at the workplace, just feeling out of place, whatever it is. And while I don't take away anything from the women who've gone through those challenges, I think for many of us, and I was talking to a group of 200 women entrepreneurs in Bangalore today, and for me, a large part of the challenges are internal. If I could go back and tell my 21-year-old self something, it would be to trust your inner voice and have a sense of self-confidence. Because I think till 5 years ago, I seriously lacked self-confidence, and I'm still on a journey with self-confidence. So finding self-confidence to trust your instincts, finding that courage to speak up and put up your point of view in the room, not getting scared when you go to a networking event and don't know how to break into that circle, or even having the confidence, my favorite thing, to ask for a raise or ask for more equity or buy back your firm, which I've historically sucked at. These have honestly been my biggest challenges. So I want a journey to discover self-confidence. I think I started as a 2. I'm currently sitting at an 8.
I think all of us in the audience would beg to differ. Radhika, we're a huge fan of all those moments. In fact, a lot of the young people in the audience as well consume so much content, inspirational stuff, especially from you on social media. So a huge round of applause, please, for Radhika. And yes, our management is here as well. Maybe we should make this a BT club. But you spoke about navigating challenges and concerns. Just to build on that, Shefali, if we're talking about a club and a chain of empowerment, how important is it to have the right mentors? I know this is a question which is gender agnostic, but especially for women at the workplace.
Thank you. Lovely being here, and I can't, agree more with Radhika. It is really nice to see so many accomplished women in the audience. So good luck to the others as well. As far as the role of mentors is concerned, I completely, go by that. I've personally benefited from the mentors throughout my career. And that has been a journey of 35 years being into profession, and many points in time. I come from a very traditional Gujarati household. So the upbringing is such that, you feel always that your family has to be first, right? So the minute, there is any dilemma or any choice, you always tend to give more priority to the family over your, career. And at that point in time, having the right mentors who guide you through the process, guide you through the decision-making tree, I think that's very, very important. So, and I was very fortunate to have them, throughout my life. And I tend to do that. It's like the way of paying forward. I do mentor a lot of women and give them the same advice that I got from my mentors to say, just dig your heels in, right? I think it's take one day at a time. There's no need for any drastic decisions. You don't have to put your career on hold just to raise your children. Believe me, they do get raised even along with your career. And we are very happily so. And I used to do that. I used to go back and do the reality check with them from time to time to see should I have been doing anything differently. Because the fact that I was into international tax as a profession, I used to travel a lot to give lectures everywhere, and I used to be out. I've missed many of my children's important occasions. So I used to check in with them, have I been a good mom? Do you think I should have done anything differently? Should I have been around more for you? And every single time the answer I've heard from them is nope, everything was perfect. They would just rather have it the same way. So clearly you do need somebody who can ground you in and who can, help you sort through your priorities to see what is more important. And there would be times when you would want to put your family first, and it should be first at that point in time. But take somebody's help to help you navigate through the process.
Wonderful. Amisha, let me come to you. You've been part of the industry which couldn't have been more male-dominated, and especially when you started off, you said that, I also know more about money. I also know more about investments. You can't just take all those decisions. In fact, the group that you've taken over hasn't looked stronger after those 80 years. With your new innovations that you've gotten, the perspective on quant that you've looked at as well. Do tell us, how was it then? Did you really have to face a lot of challenges to really make your point felt, go across, believe in your own investment ideas and thesis? And how is it now?
So I think the journey has been extremely interesting. And the one thing that guided me throughout was stick to the basics. So as a young chartered accountant, as I started my journey, I had excellent idea about balance sheet readings, business model understanding. And I remember those days, the first analysis which I did and came out with an idea, I must have been 22 years, fresh chartered accountant, and the team didn't agree that this is going to be a turnaround story, and it was Tata Motors those days. But my work was very detailed. And to my surprise, and to everybody's surprise and my pleasure, the stock did exceedingly well. So which once again re-emphasized that if you have done your homework well, nothing else really matters. And keeping that same principle in, I've faced many situations when I go for a meeting abroad, straight on the face they will say, India is overbroke, we're not looking at a new broker. I said, it's okay. I hope you have 15 minutes. And trust me, each of those meetings lasted for 45 minutes, and they end up telling me that yes, we want to work with you. That is the power of homework that any gender can bring on the table. And you all were talking about sales. I've been always into sales. I've been 3 times best salesperson from India into institutional investments. And never ever that I offered a glass of drink to anybody. I have traveled US, Asia, Australia, and of course India. Whenever in US also, my client used to find out I am Jain, where will I get a vegetarian Jain food? Forget about drink. So this is the only thing I think makes a difference. That A, you have to be extremely passionate about what you're doing and love what you're doing. So all your time goes in really understanding from the basics what you want to do. I'm never bothered for what title I get, what position I get, what designation I get. It all followed the passion and devotion to work that I was getting. How do I make my client fare better? Am I going to really help in his decision-making process? And that's what made everything fall in place. I will just take 1 more minute to add what she was trying to say. That all throughout, of course, I was also nursing that little guilt feeling when I used to miss out my child's athletic. He was the best athlete in the school, so on and so forth, because I used to travel. And to my very pleasure and surprise, he keeps on saying that, Mom, I don't need to do an MBA. He's a CA, CFA, CMT, and business excellence. He's done masters. He says, I don't need to do MBA because that happened on our dining table. So yes, to most of the young women, mothers, everybody follows what you do rather than what you say. So if you are sincere, your children are going to follow the sincerity and really follow their own passion.
Fantastic. Radhika, what's interesting is in the previous session, there was talk of alpha mindsets in boardrooms, at home, just generally in society. And something I must, being the real sense of, or token of diversity and inclusion on this panel, standing here on stage with you, and I'm honored and privileged to be here, I must confess that, and let's get the audience in on it very quickly. How many of you all think women are better multitaskers than men? With a quick show of hands. That's the entire audience. And I say that, Radhika, because you did talk about navigating the challenges at home, but I've seen this with boss ladies at home and at work. Something I'm not good at is multitasking. How crucial a skill is that, a superpower is that for women at the workplace?
And you went back to work just about a month and a half after delivering your baby.
Yeah, and I must tell you, Shefali and Amisha, you have grown up children, so you can reflect on the journey. And when I hear your reflections, it's very comforting for the mother of a 2-year-old, because I was in Bangalore last night, my 2-year-old fell sick, and I promised since I had my son that I would not do mom guilt. I said, mom guilt is not going to happen. You have nothing to feel guilty about, but just when those niggling thoughts come in, it's very inspiring to hear that at the end of the day, it will all be okay. I don't think, I'm not surprised everyone raised their hand in the room. I think women have been natural multitaskers. There's all this talk of customer service, understanding your customer engagement these days. A woman in her life, even if she's not a working woman, has a mother-in-law and in-laws to deal with, has parents to deal with, has a spouse to deal with, has kids to deal with, manages all her stakeholders and customers so beautifully in life. And by the way, we do it without training on stakeholder management and conferences like this and Excel spreadsheets. So we know our stakeholder management. We know our multitasking. In the last 2 years, since I've had a 2-year-old, I've been the author of 1 book and 1 more book coming. I've been a judge on Shark Tank India, which is 15-hour shoot days, back to back to back with 2 hours of makeup, which is torture for someone like me. I've represented India at World Economic Forum. And Edelweiss Mutual Fund has doubled in size. And I think my 2-year-old is a reasonably good kid. And all of this has been managed to happen with me getting 7 hours of sleep at night. So the point is, we know how to do it and it can happen. I think multitasking is a tremendous skill in leadership too, because at least as a CEO, I was taught that there are really two things that you do. One thing a leader does is a lot of stakeholder management. For instance, you know, in our role as mutual fund CEOs, we look at media, we look at regulators, we look at customers, we look at employees, stakeholder management, we've got it there. The other thing is that as you rise in any organization, your role goes from increasingly more functional to a lot more generalist, right? I went from being a pure play investment professional to investments being 20% of my role, marketing being another 10, sales, which everybody should do, being another 20, compliance being 10. So the ability to have a multitasking skill set at all points of time is incredible. So what you call traditionally feminine skill sets are actually the skills that you need at the workplace. And I would just say one last thing. Many years ago, I'm a very emotional person, many people don't know that. I was told that being an extremely emotional person would kill me as a leader. I was actually told by my boss that one day this is going to kill you as a leader, because I would cry at the workplace, I would get emotional about employees. I am a very emotional person. A year and a half ago, that person left the organization. Of course, Edelweiss Mutual Fund has done well since he made that statement, but he actually told me something. He's like, you know, there's no one right style of leadership. There's no alpha, beta, gamma in leadership. Leadership is individual. And he says, you know what? I take my words back. You've done well because you are an emotional leader. So stop questioning and saying, I'm a woman, I'm not alpha. Embrace what you have. What we have is good enough.
That's wonderful. Shefali, let me come to you on that point. Yes, that definitely calls for a round of applause. And, you know, take it from there and tell us about the forward-looking things. We do know that all of you in your own steads, in your own industries have broken the glass ceilings. You've done it with courage. You've done it with a lot of grace and humility. But when we look forward, 10 years, 20 years, you're visionaries in your own aspects as well. What is it that keeps you awake at night when you talk about a woman leader who's in the making, about more women leaders who should be in your position, many more who should be celebrating going forward from here?
See, I think generally while there is a lot of awareness in India, but we are still far behind when it comes to really giving an equal number of seats at the table to women. And, you know, part of the problem has been that traditionally over the years, you know, we've not had sufficiently big pipeline. And on the previous panel also they talked about it, right? You know, you interview more people so that you can get them more in. We have about almost 50% ratio, you know, men to women at the entry level. But as the women, you know, rise in their careers, they tend to, you know, fall by the side. And what we need to do as leaders is try and create a framework which encourages more women to stay in the organizations. If they stay, I think that's half the battle won. Then you can easily, you know, train them, you know, skill them for the leadership skills, managerial skills. And as once they've grown out of that critical phase in their personal lives, they will be full on game, you know, in terms of pursuing their career.
Are we doing enough as India aim to make them stay?
Not yet. I think, you know, while many organizations do have a lot of women-friendly policies, like, you know, we spoke about the creche, or like in Deloitte, we have something called a nanny reimbursement. You know, so any woman returning from maternity leave, we do provide a reimbursement for the nannies. Now that, you know, what does it do, right? Because, you know, not that people can't afford, but that takes away that whole argument, you know, which they might be having with their mother-in-laws or in the family to say, should they or should they not have the nanny? Yeah. The minute you get a reimbursement from your employer, everybody is willing to go for it. And that takes away the burden. We are also training men, right, in terms of trying to, you know, share the burden of work at home. So some of these things need to happen more.
But it's not just India, Shefali. What about the rest of the economies around the world? Are they doing enough to make sure women do not abandon the workplace and they come back after that short hiatus in their career?
So there is a mixed experience. There are a few continents, they are far better at this. Like for example, Europe. They really do a lot better on this count. US, not so much yet. Of course, they have more women in the workforce than us, but in terms of the issues and who shares the larger burden of work at home, or like, we have the issue about, taking care of the seniors, right? Which naturally falls, in the women's domain because, they are more caring and it is expected as a part of our societal structure. Now, those things are not there in many of the Western cultures. But in Asia, certainly we see this in many countries. Like Japan is even worse off than where we are. So it is not an equal experience in all countries. Culture plays a very significant role, but the organizations are doing a lot more. Even at the boardroom level, there is, we've done a report on, women in the boardroom, and we are beginning to see how having different approaches, whereby who you are bringing to the table in the boardroom and how many women are you bringing to the table, it really increases your diversity. So it's creating awareness, introducing policies, and then holding your management accountable, right? Because having policies is not enough. So every time there is a promotion, there are increments, keep challenging your executives to make sure that, women have not been dealt with an unfair hand.
As some of the the top 3 leaders, I'm an August company, and of course my lovely colleague Sakshi on the stage. I'm just curious to build on that because we often talk about problems and it's more big picture, macro, and we don't have solutions. Just building on this point, Amisha, we came out of the lockdown, all of us sitting in this room, working from home, using technology to make things happen, even us men becoming better multitaskers. At least we like to show that on Zoom calls, a teeny weeny bit. But my point being, Amisha, why haven't we learned some lessons from there to fix some of these problems, to really give us those leeways, that flexibility, honestly using technology to make it better?
So yes, in general, I think first I will go by what Chef Ali was trying to talk about, giving those extra additional soaps so that women continue to work and be in the journey together. But if you see at the lower strata of the society, where working is important, do women leave jobs after just because they have a baby? They all continue. So trust me, this is a question that we women need to ask ourselves. Are we passionate enough? And do we realize and do we have a foresight that after this 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, whatever may be the time when babies will consume total energy, what kind of emptiness will seep in, and an educated, developed mind, where will it put that energies? So there is a very little time that we have to all pass as women when our children need a lot of our attention. The easier answers during this period when you like your career and of course you love your family and children is to sacrifice on your socializing. That is the first thing that you can put down the dump. Second is of course on your fashion and your something, because this is temporary, you can do away with. But if you take a long break, your desire to bounce back, your confidence to bounce back will become a question mark. And I'll just tell one more thing linked to this, and I'll take it forward. Challenges keep changing their, size, dimensions as you continue to progress in your career. So about 4-5 years back, the organization in which I started as an employee in the institutional business, which is one of the businesses, and then I kept adding businesses, was at a juncture when most of my other shareholders thought that they probably are at a stage they can probably sell it off to one of the larger organizations or a bank and earn cash. And somewhere I thought that maybe this is not the right size, this is not the right justice to the brand that is there in business for almost 80 years, that we just give it away like that. Trust me, to do this decision, A, I needed capital, B, I needed all the regulators. We are governed by RBI, SEBI, BSE, NSE, IRDA, all the permissions. I needed all my bankers to continue to support me if from 4 shareholders and 4 personal guarantee people, I turned to one. And by the time in the boardroom this decision would have happened, I had lost a good amount of my 5-6 years of prime career time. But I continued to trust my instinct. And I took this decision. And everything fell in place. It took me 6 months to really make up my mind. Do I do 4x my net worth to buy out a firm? Do I do a structured buyout? I didn't give a personal guarantee of my husband also. I stuck to it that no, I come with so much experience. I'm going to run this organization and I'm going to do A, B, C. And everything fell in place. Within 2 years, both from profits and equity raise, I have repaid all my structured debt. Why I'm sharing is just to say that no hurdle is a big hurdle.
Wow.
Soaps will just take away your main focus. We don't need soaps. We don't need any smaller supports. Let's believe in ourselves.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful, Amisha. Thank you so much for giving us that wonderful insight and anecdote about yourself as well. But you and Radhika both are from markets, and I cover markets. I cannot let you both go talking about markets. Tell us, Radhika, do women make more better investors? At least the SEBI survey did talk about women making better traders than men. Are they making good enough number of women investors right there? You are talking to them almost every day. Tell us.
We make phenomenal savers. Mothers and grandmothers have been CFOs of homes for decades, and they've managed to take care of all of us and save money on the side. If you want proof of that, please remind yourself about demonetization. So they make phenomenal savers. They need to convert that journey from savings to investments by stopping outsourcing the problem to men. And in every session I go to, I tell women 2 things. 1, don't outsource this to men. There's a lot of other stuff you can outsource to the men in your life, but not money management. And 2, don't think it's complicated. I sell mutual funds for a living.
Yes.
Believe me, ladies, if you can manage your career, if you can manage your home, if you can manage all the other things that you do, picking a couple of mutual funds ain't very hard. So women are good at it. They just have to believe it.
Amisha, you started off by talking about Tata Motors. Tell us which is going to be the next multi-bagger. All the women over here really need to know that. What is really going to create a whole lot of wealth for all of us in the next 1 year?
Or you can just say mutual fund sahi hai, and I will love you, Amisha. Come on.
But I think one thing which I will tell all my women colleagues is that while you work to make money, investments and wealth creation is the way your money works for you. You don't do anything. You just don't do anything. You invest and your money works for you. Don't miss out that opportunity. The other way of really explaining that is that the biggest dinosaurs, they say in financial market, is inflation. Which means that every rupee you keep, every year becomes less powerful. What really brings power back to money is your wealth creation journey, where only equities give you the wealth creation opportunity. So once again coming back, please invest in our mutual fund.
Thank you. I love you, Amisha.
Wonderful.
What
Thank
a
you so much.
fantastic session. An absolute honor and privilege for me to be on this stage as that token of diversity and inclusion with these stellar ladies. A huge round of applause for you all for being a lovely audience as well.
Request all of you to please stay back for a photo op.